So I just finished up a long discussion with Cellino about this garden down here. This is currently temporarily named the Pretty Garden, which might stick because it's very hard to change names later. And it's a pretty big area, a couple acres at least. And some years back I cut down the pine trees that were here. And that was because we were growing so many baby trees that we didn't have a space to put them. And so we chopped down a lot of pine trees. And this year we've been clearing it out quite a bit. We've already planted things each year a little bit. So down here there's there's capulene naturally, and that's a black cherry. And coralline, which is just a flower plant. And even when I say just a flower plant, the truth is it's a very good plant for hummingbirds and bees. So that's great. And we've got over here like lettuce plants, salad plants. We've got a nut tree right here, and cactus, and a flowering tree that I brought seeds up from the coast actually, and it's amazing they've lived. But sometimes when you help a plant along at first, it can live in a place where it wasn't originally intended to be. We've got rosemary in here, and ferns and succulents and various native plants that we happen to like. And down here this whole area grew over completely with harachina, which is a relatively invasive plant, kind of like Scotch broom but different. And the cool thing is that a place that we bulldozed out and had very hard dirt, bad dirt, has grown up with these madrones and oaks and pines, and those will help restore the dirt. And we just cut out all of the native early pioneer plants that we don't really want, and maybe next June we'll be able to put in plants that we do want in there mixed in. It's very tough dirt, and so every single spot, even in such a small area, is completely different. I mean, there's a little gully over here, and that has a tiny bit more water in it. It has a tiny bit more humidity, and so we've put a bunch of bamboo in there this year. It's a clumping bamboo, it's a timber bamboo, and that's all going to do well. You know, it's going to take some years. More citrus, rubber plant, I don't know, maybe something, whatever. There's a kohlrabi over here. We have Bracken Fern is native. This is a Nispero right here. This is loquat. And we've got, what is that plant? Oh, loofah. We're growing loofah squash. Those have done terribly, but they're alive. And we only need a few to succeed in order to get more seeds of those. Loofah, you'll make loofah sponge with them. So this entire area, you got to see it in the future, not just see what it is now. Right now, in a couple of years ago, it was kind of empty. It was boring. Now it's growing so rapidly that we have to cut things down, that we have to clear it, and that's a bunch of work. I have very little labor right now, but the guys I have, the folks I have, in this case led by Cellino, are just really awesome with it. And they understand the bigger picture of sculpting with plants. And we talked a little bit about genetics today, about having dahlias in one place and dahlias in another. And he was really proud of the dahlias that he had grow in a place. He had a couple that cross-pollinated, and we were excited by the genetic mix because they had different flowers. But then the tusas, the pocket gophers, ate them. So it's not all success. It's a fight in a way. There's some orchids in here too. It's sculpting biological systems to serve humans and the rest of the ecosystem. That's not a new idea at all. People have been doing that in Europe and Mexico for a long time, and probably a lot of the rest of the world. So there's a whole bunch of area over there, probably twice as big as this area, that we can also do the same thing to. But we're working with a very small team, so it's tough. And then the bigger picture here is, how can we have a space like this that also serves people? And so that's why some of the food plants are relevant. Like there's a squash right over there. I can see it's an acorn squash that is cross-pollinated with other squash, so it's not quite an acorn squash. But I'm okay with cross-pollination. I'm okay with things not being pure. Now we have corn over there. We have corn over there. They're close enough that they're going to cross-pollinate. And that is going to result in a corn that is not as good as either one of them. But they have a really good attribute, and that is that they live here and they're adapted to here. So we're doing genetic mixes that want to be here. If every year we collect corn from here and we keep replanting it, we won't end up with a corn maybe that's quite as good as ones that were developed, selected to be pure. But we will end up with one that grows really well in this spot, without fertilizer, without water. And that's the bigger goal. And that's not something I'm going to see the results of in my lifetime. Maybe a little bit. But that's the goal. Grow what wants to grow for you. I mean, look at how pretty it is out there. And we're specifically growing things that are beneficial to humans. Not all of them, but many of them. And the long-term result will be that we can live in a world where we can hunt and gather in a fancier way than we could before. Because humans evolved in environments where they were eating native plants. And then the very earliest forms of gardening were that they would be collecting things, and the seeds of what they collected would get, left around where they lived, or maybe when they were migratory, they left them around. And then they would come back another year, and things would be slightly better. And that's tens of thousands of years of plant evolution. Well, given the scientific knowledge we have now, we can specifically evolve plants in a better way. Now, we're still doing it kind of like fancy cavemen here, but we're making some decisions on purpose. And so this tiny garden is actually an evolutionary experiment in how we can do agriculture in a way that lets us get back to hunting, gathering type of society while doing very subtle genetic manipulation. And we're doing some other experiments as well. We're doing air layering for the first time this year, where we're taking a branch of trees that we might cut off. We might prune it, like fruit trees and things. And we wound the branch, sometimes put in rooting hormone. We put in some moss that we've sterilized by boiling it. We put plastic around it, and then roots grow out of that. And then we can cut it off and plant it as a tree. Now, we wouldn't do that with a tree that we could grow by seed easily, but a lot of hardwood trees are very difficult to reproduce, and we don't have very many of them. For example, I have one lemon tree. I have lime trees, which they call limon in Spanish. But I have one good lemon tree, and we can take the seeds of that, and we can reproduce them. And they may not reproduce true. They may not come out as nice. And so in some cases, in this case, this year, we want to take the parts that we would prune and instead do air layering. It's air layering because it's up in the air. It's not in the ground. A lot of plant reproduction is done by doing cuttings and putting them in the ground. And so we're not experts at that, but we're going to be. And then this winter, once again, we will do grafting, where we're taking the native hawthorn trees, and this year we're collecting the seeds of them, and we're going to make lots of baby hawthorn trees. We haven't done that in the past very well. We made a weak attempt. And we're going to make tons of baby hawthorns that then in years in the future we'll be able to make graftings of on, pears and quince and other fruits. And using that rootstock will allow the plant to grow really well here. There's a ton of other experiments here like that. We have grapes now. We could graft those onto the native grapes, or just see how they do, or both, which we'll do. This same garden has, right over there, a maguey garden, which is really cool. Magueys are a type of agave. Like blue agave produces tequila, and the two agaves I have the most of here, they produce mezcal. And so if we plant thousands of those, then I could sell the plant, and people could make a mezcal at the distillery. That'd be cool. All of this, I'm only scratching the surface on all the experiments that I can see just while I'm sitting here. But all of this is to change the way that we deal with the natural environment, that we change how we do agriculture. And so we're adjusting ourselves to the natural system rather than forcing the natural system to do what we want, using a lot of fossil fuels and deciding what makes the most money. This is just a whole different way, a whole different attitude of how we deal with the natural world. And of course, we want to live close to it. We want to live near it so that our work isn't done by tractors far away and trucks transporting food, but is done by people who need exercise anyway. And so they come in and are growing their own food, and some of that food can go elsewhere. So I know it's just one garden. It's not... I was going to say it's not that exciting. That's untrue. It's revolutionary. And this is getting back to some very old ways of doing things that people have done all over the world in the past. That's how they survived. And it's doing better than that because we understand more genetics and because we can collect different plants from around the world. So I'm pretty excited about it. And this one garden has been years in the making. And on the entire, Bosque experiment, there's things that are much longer term. And we've had tons of failures. I would say if you were to count them up, we've had more things that didn't work than did. But luckily I've done things in ways that don't have to be economical in the short term. Like my neighbors just cut a tree down. Because I want real solutions. I want deep solutions that serve us after civilization falls. Because the way we do agriculture now is poisoning the oceans, the waterways, it's destroying the soil. And this method, as humble as it is, as simple as it is what will be the future. This is the future of agriculture, if there's any future for humanity at all. So, if you like what I'm saying, and you like what I'm doing, I don't like to ask for donations, and I guess I could ask for likes and subscriptions, but in order to keep doing what I'm doing, I'm dying here, I make no money doing this, and so please do check into my meager crowdfunding things and think, do I want to be part of that? You know, there's a lot of things you can put your energy into, but this is an honest effort at using the best we have of scientific knowledge and the best we have of traditional knowledge from around the world, and doing a real project in a real place. This is not just philosophical bullshit. I hope there's a lot of that too, because we got to think about stuff, but we have to actually do it for real, and it's not government funded, and we'll try and improve our scientific methods on it and keep better records. I do okay, but it's really ultimately just a difficult project that I think matters a lot. So if you have any ability to contribute philosophically or connecting us with other people, or the best thing, of course, is always cash. Because even though this whole project is run super cheap and I'm barely making it, if at all, cash is king. Cash wins. I need to buy tools, and these guys can't work for free. They got families to take care of. So right now, go and sign up to pay on Patreon, or if there's a GoFundMe project we're running right now, or if you want to recommend somebody come here as a visitor who wants to pay. That's a little bit difficult because of the virus thing, and we're in quarantine, but we're just scraping by. And I think this is we all eat food, and we're eating it the wrong way. We're making our food the wrong way. So please do donate if that is something that works for you. And I will continue to try and improve my ability to report and create new projects, not just agricultural, that serve you for amusement, for education, and ultimately for the new survival of civilization. Civilization as it is will not be continuing, but some people will survive, and we could have a utopian society in some ways. That's a strange word. So join up, hang out, yar.